Welcome to the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter. This is our Thursday night study group. Today is May 10th of 2024. This is our 119th study group. Congratulations to all of us. Today we're going to interview Heather, Mylan-Mains, and myself. We're going to do the presentation we did at the Building Business Capability Conference a few weeks ago. And it was a pretty good conference, and we got pretty good reviews on this. So I'm excited to bring this to our chapter. My name is Thea Soehren. I'm the Vice President of Career and Professional Development for our chapter. You're welcome to contact me through LinkedIn if you have any questions about either our chapter, becoming a business analyst, how to do your job better, taking any of the certification classes, whatever you need. It's my job to help you. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. Our chapter is led by a volunteer board, and I'm so proud of these folks. Our president is Cliff. Our vice president of finance is Yulia. Vivian, Uche, Alicia, and Esther are our board members at large. And our mission here is to bridge the gap between industry leaders and business analysts by building partnerships with professionals, educators, and employers so that we may empower, instruct, and engage our worldwide BA community. We do definitely have a worldwide community. We have people from every continent that are participating in our chapter as members. We have people that are from every continent also that look at our recordings. The appreciation that is sent to us that says, because of you, we were able to pass our certification test is how we get paid. We don't charge money for anything that we do. So if we've helped you, reach out to us. If you do not have an IIBA chapter, you're welcome to join our chapter. Yes, Cliff.
Can you share your screen?
Have I not shared my screen? I will do it again. I appreciate you letting me know.
Really, Robert.
Screen share one more time. Okay, I'm screen sharing. Great. Okay, I did it. I've been kicked off like 6 times, so we're going to keep persevering here. This is our Thursday evening study group from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. We've given you other ways to reach us. We have LinkedIn, Meetup. We have our Zoom link. That's the same Zoom link every week, at least until now. We also have study group materials on a Google Drive that includes materials that people have created for their own practice for their CBAP certification, and then they kindly share it with us, as well as presentations, including the one we're going to have today, of handouts and the presentations from many, many professionals that have come to talk to us and help us understand how we can help them better and how they can help us better. Our meetings are all recorded on YouTube. There's the access to that. And we also have our IIBA website. We typically focus on the certifications that you get from studying the BABOK, our Business Analysis Book of Knowledge, the ECBA, the CCBA, and the CBAP. You choose one of those based upon how long you've been doing business analysis that you can document. The other 4 certifications are very important also, but they're advanced certifications. And so if you want information about any of these, I'm happy to discuss it with you. As I said earlier, people have reached out from all over the world to say because of our study group, they've been able to pass their certifications, and that is candy to us. That's what we want to hear. Esther has been one of the most recent, and Esther joined our board right after that. So it was so exciting that we were able to help these folks, and we want to continue to help people all over the world. If you know someone that either needs a study group for certification or they just want a community, we are a great community and we would welcome everyone. We have a few folks that are our advisors. These are folks that have earned their CBAP certification, and because they attend our chapter meetings, we are able to give you, as you attend the chapter meetings, our education credit. So we extend our appreciation to these folks. Because we have 4 now, we don't have one person that's required to be here every single time, which is great. But because we have 4, we are 4 times blessed. Watermark Learning has been our constant companion through this education journey. They've given us a discount code on all of their products. Watermark has products for business analysis, project management, and a few other fields. Tampa Space 21 is the discount code for anything that you want off of their website. and we do appreciate them allowing us to use their practice test questions in our study group as we start next week. Today, we are going to have the presentation that Heather and I gave at BBC a few weeks ago. It was well received, as I said earlier, and we put a lot of work into this, and I think it has some really good stuff. I'm excited to bring that to you. Next week, we're going to begin our BABOK certification practice test questions. So next week, we're going to talk about what it is we're going to do. We've been through this twice before. Most of you, if you were here, you know what we're talking about, but some of you weren't here. So we want to be sure everyone's on the same page. We know what we're getting into, and we know what we need to do to prepare. One of the advantages we have is not only do we have awesome advisors and people who are experienced at taking the CBAP certification as well as the earlier certifications, but we also have those recordings on YouTube. So we have literally 4 to 6 hours on every single chapter of practice test questions that we go through, and we talk about why this is the best answer over the other 3 options. Those are available to you at no charge, but studying that as well as studying the BABOK will help you whenever we get to the actual test questions. So let me stop this presentation and go to the next one. We're going to talk about this one. Let's see. Slideshow from the beginning. Heather is on with, or going to start talking about building your best toolkit. With Heather Mylan-Mains and Thea Soehren. Heather, why don't you do the intro?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Thea. I am happy to be here and to be sharing with your chapter and be sharing for everyone who watches the recording. Welcome to everyone. And so Thea and I have known each other for quite some time, and we met through IIBA. So IIBA not only is a great professional organization, but it's a great personal one as well. And we've been friends for a while, and we had this opportunity to come up with a presentation. And I have presented many times before, so I was super excited to include Thea as we talked about things that are our favorite tools. So I am a CBAP a million years ago, it feels like now, and I have volunteered for IIBA. I'm just finishing my 8 years on the IIBA International Board of Directors, so it's still nice to be involved with the chapters and with our community. So when we talk about our toolkit, I'm Heather. You guys already know Thea, so Thea, you need to share our fun line about us. Remember?
You want me to
yeah.
introduce
Remember?
myself?
Well, no. Remember how long we've been BAs?
Oh, that's right. Heather and I have been BAs longer than some of y'all have been alive.
Yeah. maybe not on this call right at this moment, but definitely true for things too. So we're going to talk about these tools, and we only have a short time, so we can't talk about everything that we'd like to. But these are tools that we feel are fairly significant. And I would say that these are going to be tools that are not something that an artificial intelligence tool will replace. We need to be excellent communicators. We need to have empathy, and we need to be using our analysis. So we're going to talk about the structured problem statement, which is one of my very favorite techniques. And that is how we're going to be working to communicate with making sure we understand what we're actually solving as a problem. We're going to talk a lot about stakeholder analysis and who we're working with. We're also going to talk about RACI matrix and how we can use that in a little different twist, as well as talking about how we can really work better together as teams and people. So with that, I think we'll move into structured problem statement. Now, let's see, we only have 3 other people on the call at the moment, right? Or only 3 people on camera? Okay. So
maybe all.
Okay.
We've been getting more. I've been reaching out through LinkedIn, so we're getting that passcode out there.
Yeah, awesome, great. Well, so for the other 3, so we've got Robert and oh my goodness, I was gonna say we've got a few other people coming on too. So who is familiar with the structured problem statement? You can certainly pipe in. You can share audibly. Who has used this? Robert's raising his hand. Anybody else? It is in the BABOK, although I would say it's probably not used as much as it should be. So a structured problem statement has 4 distinct parts. You make sure that you can describe the problem that you're solving in your organization. I'm going to guess many of you on the call or watching the recording are going to have situations where you've actually done a project and you're not solving the problem. I'm working on one right now. I've done my good analysis work to say, by the way, that's fine. You've prioritized this solution. It's probably not good. It's part of my framework. Good. Probably not going to solve the problem, but that's okay because it's your decision and what to do. I have no power as a BA other than to advise. So the problem of, I would recommend these 4 parts as you practice and learn this technique. So describe the problem, what's going on, the effect of the problem. So these are the people that are affected. The stakeholders in your organization are definitely impacted by a problem. So the impact of that is, what kind of pain? What is it that's causing this problem to be something that we need to work on? And then you describe the solution. Now, this is not the solution as far as we're going to install a CRM system. Instead, it's going to talk about what a successful solution could look like, right? So here's an example. Before we go there, Thea, sorry. Okay, well, we're here.
Here.
I'm going to guess that many of you have had the pleasure of having a human resources annual evaluation. And I'm also going to guess that some of you have received information at that conversation that you felt wasn't very helpful and it didn't really make sense. And it really wasn't feedback. So in thinking about feedback in organizations, I'm going to describe it as a problem. So the problem of poor feedback habits affects the employees, the team members, and leaders. And the impact of that is frustrated people, low employee morale, and your teams are just not getting better because we're not giving effective feedback. So a successful solution to this problem of poor feedback habits would be, we would have good feedback habits to improve the team performance and create value to the organization. So I've clearly described a problem, and I've talked about the people in my organization that are affected and what the impact is. Why does this matter? Do you think that it's a problem for organizations that there's low employee morale and people are frustrated?
Huge.
Yeah, huge problem. Huge problem for sure. So that's an example of a structured problem statement. Now let's practice a little bit. So let's go to our next slide. This is a situation that we're going to work together to discuss. So here's what's going on at this organization. You read that and tell me, either through the chat or typing in audibly, what are some of the aspects of a problem that we have? What do you think?
It looks to me as though these are symptoms of something that it doesn't tell us what the problem is, but it tells us these are symptoms we can observe.
Yeah, it's information that we have for sure. So in an organization that has customer service, is it a problem that we have a lot more cancellations?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, Tamara, thank you. Yeah, it is. Certainly we've got some information about exit interviews. So if you were to brainstorm, and we're going to brainstorm together, and I'd like you to think about, and we can do this together. So what kind of problem are we having? And you might not know the problem first, so you might want to go to the people. So let's talk about the people. Who is going to be affected by this problem? Name some stakeholders you can think of from this example.
Are you saying based on what's stated, these 3 bullet points?
Yes. Who are the stakeholders that are affected?
Someone may switch to another company. They don't want to stay with your company.
Yes, that's definitely what's happening. So that's affecting customer service. I saw in the chat. Who else?
I think the customers would also be affected because if previously they had, say, about 10 people to attend to them, and now with people leaving, you have just 2 people, there's going to be longer wait time. So the customers would also be directly impacted.
Absolutely. Customers, employees, shareholders. Yeah, we mentioned some stock price. So we've got some shareholders. Okay, so you get the idea. Those are some of the people. So the impact of that change or impact to those stakeholders is what? So we already heard. Yep. Thea's going to jump to the punchline. So really the problem, you might think that the problem is the cancellations or something like that, but really it's poor customer service. So we are not providing appropriate customer service, which affects customers, human resources. If you've worked in human resources, it's not easy to onboard new people, is it? No. And it's expensive. Customers, customer service reps, leaders, shareholders, pretty much we could say most of the organization would be affected. And the impact of that is you have frustrated customers, low employee morale. All of a sudden I'm working overtime. I don't really want to. Our company is not making as much money, which definitely has an impact to lots of other things. Market share is impacted, high employee turnover. So we want a solution that would enable employees to provide customer service to retain customers, regain our market share, and increase employee satisfaction. So nowhere in here have we actually said what the solution is yet. This is actually a scoping technique. Now we talk about scoping, that's at the beginning of a project when we're not sure yet what we're going to analyze. So I've got a statement up here that this is a macro level statement. The beauty of most analysis techniques, and particularly this problem one, is I've got this at a high level, and I want to get buy-in from everyone that I'm working on in my team that, yes, this is the problem, because then I can use this statement to direct my analysis, to direct conversations, and to also control scope of conversation. So I'm going to show the next level of problem statement. It's going to be at a micro level. So in this case, I have isolated a very specific problem. And I've said the problem of customer hold times exceeding 10 minutes, the very specific part of a problem. It does relate to poor customer service, but now we're at a more specific problem. So I can create a meeting, and my whole focus of this solicitation session and workshop or interview or whatever it is, and I could say, you know what, we're only talking about this problem. It has the same, it impacts the same stakeholders, and that could be slightly different depending on how you're doing it, but in general, it's the same thing. And the impact is the same thing. And I say, you know, my objective would be, I want my customers to receive customer service within 2 minutes of calling. That gets to a measurable objective, which is also kind of a unicorn in our work, to be able to measure that stuff. Yes. I am, Jillian, I'm an old school human being. And I really like to talk to human beings. I don't want robocalls. I don't want to wait. I just want to talk to a person. I don't even like the automated stuff personally, although it could be helpful, right? So there are lots of things that they're trying to come up to solve these problems in organizations. But the power of this technique and why it helps with communication as well as empathy is that I could set a meeting invite and say, today we're going to talk about this. So when someone brings up that there is a new product that was launched, and that's the problem, you can ask them quite nicely, can you tell me how that new product launch is impacting customer hold times exceeding 10 minutes? You've now taken away the direction of, you know, you're not actually paying attention to what we're talking about, or that is not relevant. And you ask them that question, and of course they're going to say, oh, well, it really doesn't. And you can say, you know what? That is really important and we want to capture it, but today we're not going to be talking about that. We'll talk about that in a future time. So that's controlling the scope of a conversation, and it's respectful, and it's having empathy for people to direct to, this is what we're talking about. So really powerful technique to talk about these problem statements. And in your handout, there's on the Google Drive, I think Thea's put this presentation, but we also have some handouts with some blanks of this. So you want to refer to that later and have it for practice. I'm thinking now, Thea, we go right back into talking about stakeholders.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is understanding your stakeholders, because understanding them helps you relate to them. So learning your stakeholders' goals, plans, and motivations, concerns, and fears allows you to craft your content to what they're interested in. Learning their personality, communication style, love language allows you to craft the content to them in a format that they best receive. You're basically speaking their language at that point. So who are your stakeholders? Well, first of all, you know the stakeholder analysis. It's got the 9 columns. These are the additional columns that I put in my personal stakeholder analysis. And incidentally, in your stakeholder analysis, don't forget to include yourself. You are a stakeholder in that project. excuse me, and the stakeholder analysis needs to be available to everyone in the project. But this is the extended for yourself. Oh goodness. So
Many stakeholders, not
these are the additional fields that I include in my own stakeholder analysis. And I could talk all day on them, but I've just picked a few that I think are really important I want to talk about today. First thing is I'm going to talk about personality. Personality is almost one of those things that it's hard to grab a handle on. So I encourage you to consider learning one of the personality measurement tools. The one that I'm going to talk about today is the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator. A lot of people just call it Myers-Briggs. Some people call it the MBPTI, which is very formal and irritating to me. But the Myers-Briggs is easy to get. In the handout, there's a link to a free Myers-Briggs test that you can take yourself. The reason that I want you to take it is if you understand who you are in the Myers-Briggs, and then you understand who your stakeholders are, you can understand how you normally think and how you might need to change that so that you can communicate with them better. So let's talk about the Myers-Briggs. The Myers-Briggs is organized into 4 different groups. The first group is interaction with the world. There are extroverts on one side, introverts on the other side. Extroverts are energized by people, enjoy a variety of tasks. They call it multitasking, but they enjoy a variety of tasks at the same time. They like a quick pace. They're very good at multitasking. They think out loud. If you ask an extrovert something, if you ask a group of some people something, the extroverts will just start talking because we think out loud. You can tell I'm an extrovert. I'm showing you I'm an extrovert by my behavior. Now, introverts often like working alone. If you have a task that's alone and you assign it to an extrovert, they will probably say, is there somebody we could, I just want to work with somebody. An introvert, they're thrilled to work alone usually. They like small groups as well. They prefer a deliberate pace and they like to focus on one task at a time. Now, I want to say introverts think much more deeply than extroverts. They very often come up with much better ideas than I do. As an extrovert, I kind of skim the surface. They go down deep and they come up with great ideas. So just because they're not talking a lot doesn't mean they're not valuable to your team. So let me talk about extroverts and introverts in the relationship to each other. There's a new thing called the BABOK effect. It's a new study that's come out that says that typically if you are going to pick a leader, you're going to pick the person that talks the most. The person that talks the most is probably going to be more extroverted than the other people in that group. It doesn't mean that they're the best leader. There are very, very good introvert leaders. Someone can be extrovert on one end, introvert on the other, or if they're an introvert, but they can pretend to be an extrovert for a certain period of time, but then go recover, we call that ambivert. Another thing about extroverts is they often are called the smartest person in the room because we have all the answers. We're the one talking. We do not let introverts talk sometimes. So if you're an extrovert, please don't steamroller over your introvert coworkers. Give them a chance to talk. Occasionally, refrain from talking and let everybody in the room talk. Or if you're facilitating, be sure that you say, hey, John, I noticed you didn't talk very much in the last meeting. I'd really like to hear what you have to say. If you're going to ask an introvert to talk in front of people, give them warning ahead of time. Not only tell them what you need from them, why you need it from them, and why it's valuable. Give them a chance to prepare themselves. They're excellent, but they need some time to platform. The next section is absorption of information. Sensors are realistic. They focus on facts. They want to say, here's the trend, so we can know the solution. They're very, very reasonable people. Intuitives, on the other hand, they prefer possibilities. They want to see the big picture. They love innovation. They want creative solutions to problems. If you're working with someone who's a sensor, you're going to work with him very differently than someone who's an intuitive. Then the next section is decision making. There's thinkers and feelers. Thinkers, very similar to sensors, They use logical analysis. They objectively weigh pros and cons when making decisions, and they value honesty, consistency, and fairness. It's wonderful. However, you're working with a feeler. They're going to be sensitive and cooperative, make decisions based on personal values and how others will be affected by their actions. Let's say that you belong to an organization, y'all run 6 orphanages, and you're going to have to move people from one of the orphanages into somewhere else, into one of the others, or into all of the others, or something. You're going to have to move them. Your conversation with a feeler is going to be much different than your conversation with a thinker. You have to prepare for the way they're going to make the decisions, how the judgments that they're going to make. The last section is organization, commitment, and rule following. Judges, they tend to be organized and prepared. They stick to plans. They're most comfortable following the rules. So let's say you have a judger and you need to give them information. They're going to want to know statistics. They're going to see a Gantt chart. They want to know a project plan. If you ask a judger to turn something in at end of business day Friday, they will text you 30 minutes before then and say it will be there by 5 o'clock. However, perceivers, they like to keep their options open. They really don't want to make commitments or decisions. They like to be spontaneous, and they like to be flexible when making plans. You ask them for a commitment, you might get it by 10 o'clock on Monday because they assume you said end of the day Friday. You really don't really need it till it's a little more elastic. Rules, judges will say, we're getting really close to breaking this rule. You know, I just want to make everyone aware. Perceivers are going to go, I'm not even sure we need that rule. Both could be very valid points, but having people with this wide variety of personalities on your team allows you to see 2 sides of every situation. So it's important you don't have, for instance, only engineers on your team. You need some people with some different perspectives and personalities so that you can make good decisions. So as you can see, knowing where you are on this and knowing where somebody else is going to let you know how to talk to them. People will show you who they are by their behavior, by their reactions, by what's important to them. So you just have to be aware of this. It's not something necessarily you need to say, I need you to take a Myers-Briggs test, but I know many teams that have said, for our team improvement, let's do this and see how we're different and how we're the same. Finding out that you're the same as somebody else is a great way to build trust. Now, I had a friend who had just finished her MBA, worked full-time, went to school full-time. She was driven. She was awesome. This is where she fell on the Myers-Briggs. High on extrovert, a little bit lower on sensor, high on thinker, and about medium on judging. She was phenomenal, and I loved working with her. She took the Myers-Briggs. This is her results. 3 years later, she had a 8-month-old baby girl. She had been married for about a year. She was brilliant still. She took the Myers-Briggs and discovered that thinker came closer to feeler because of her life experience. Your Myers-Briggs will be reactive to your life experience. So if you took it years ago and you think you're still the same, I challenge you to take it again and see where you are, because all of us, our personality is reactive to our experience. The next thing I want to talk about is what you may call love languages, but it's a little bit different in the workplace. Heather, you want to talk about this?
I would love to share about this. So there is a fairly popular relationship book called The 5 Love Languages, and the author Gary Chapman has made several different versions of them. One of them speaks to workplace appreciation. So they're pretty simple. So I'm going to ask, I know Thea can explain this and I can explain it. Has anyone else heard of this book? And does anyone else know what those love languages are? Because I'd love to have you share what you think they are too. This is your chance to participate. Just because we're virtual doesn't mean you can't participate.
Right.
Anybody want to take a stab at explaining one of them?
Just one.
Robert's looking for the
Bob's
book on
looking
a
for the
shelf.
book.
He is. He's like, I've got it in my library here.
I'm gonna let you run with it. I'm aware of many sources like this. I shared a bunch in the chat.
Okay, Excellent. Okay, so if you're not aware, or this might be new to you, this is super exciting because it could change how you see and work with any relationship in your life, including those in your workplace. Okay, so there are 5 basic languages, one of which is acts of service. So if you are a person that feels, okay, there we go, Leanne, you've got some acts of service are in the workplace. You know, I'm overwhelmed with work. And if somebody steps in and says, hey, I can help get that task done for you, you might feel so appreciated. It's just the best thing ever. Another way is quality time. So quality time has to do with being good. Yes, good place to learn it from church. The aspect of quality time is I am going to spend time with you, which means I'm going to focus on our conversation. I'm going to put my phone aside. I'm going to put my computer aside, and I'm actually going to listen to what you're sharing with me and spend time with you. That's how I feel appreciated, maybe. Words of affirmation, it's fairly simple. In the United States, we say attaboy, attagirl. Great job. Really appreciate you working on that. I couldn't have done this without you. Any number of affirmation phrases that indicate appreciation for you could be how you feel appreciated. Tangible gifts. Some people feel appreciated when they receive a gift. It could be a plaque. It could be a gift card. It could be any tangible representation of a gift that you feel appreciated with. Could be lunch. Someone gives you the gift of lunch. Could be double if you're quality time as well. You have lunch with someone and you pay for lunch. Wow, that's bonus. Physical touch. So physical touch is lots of things. It's physically being near someone. It could be giving a hug. It could be giving a high five. Now, if we're virtual and physical touch were your affirmation, how you feel appreciated, I could give you a virtual high five. I could say, hey, high five. That's so awesome. So you can replicate it. It's not quite the same as giving it out in person, but physically being near someone could be how they feel appreciated. So those are the workplace appreciation languages. So I want you to think about you and how you feel. Yeah, which would be the most meaningful to you? And we'll give another example of the terms of this in terms of pizza. Who doesn't love pizza? Pizza is fantastic. Acts of service, I'm going to make you a pizza. Quality time, let's make it together. Let's spend the time together and make it. Words of affirmation, you know, I just think you made the best pizza ever. Thank you so much. Tangible gifts. Oh, okay, good. Tangible gifts, I got you a pizza. Physical touch, high five for that great pizza. You get the concept. So we've got one person who knows what their appreciation language is. Okay. So we're going to do another exercise. Now that you can think about your appreciation exercise, feed me, tell me I'm doing well, and leave me alone. Excellent. And you know what's funny about that, though? I think the reason why I think this is really important in any human relationship is that you may be thinking that you are showing appreciation to someone and you are constantly doing things for them. You are constantly helping them. You are, wanting to say, hey, let me jump in and help you with that meeting. Do you need any help taking notes? I mean, whatever it is. And that person could say, hate it. They could literally hate acts of service. But what they would enjoy is some quality time with you. Or they might just want to hear that they did a good job. So we might be speaking a language that's our affirmation language, but the other person isn't receiving it as being important because that's not their language. And does that mean that you aren't trying to appreciate them? No, you're trying. So knowing this about a person is really important. So let's spend a little bit of time thinking about this. So your company wants to show appreciation for you, the way that you feel appreciated. And you get to choose what this appreciation gesture is on behalf of the company. So I'm going to give you a minute virtually to think about this, and then we're going to check in. I'm going to start my timer. A minute will feel like a really long time. So keep thinking.
And then I want to jump in here while they're thinking about this. If you don't know what your love language is, how you want to be appreciated, think about, have you ever not received something you just wish somebody would say you did a good job? or you just wish somebody would have lunch with you, that need, that desire may show you what your love language is.
30 more seconds. And if you're comfortable, please add it to the chat. That'd be perfect. Paula, thank you. Roshni, you're just easy. That's awesome. Ah, that's so funny. So Robert, not a cupcake party.
They piss me off
That's so funny because I would be like,
actively.
I would love cupcakes personally, like great. But it would only have to be, it'd have to be specific cupcakes. I'm a little bit
I'll buy
snobby.
my own cupcakes. Let's get the work done.
So Robert, what makes you feel appreciated? Obviously, it's not the gift of a cupcake.
Not being crazy.
Show me the
Showing up,
money.
doing the work, being business, like getting after it, going home.
Okay, good. Excellent. So we've got a variety of things. So the fun part of this exercise is that even if you were in charge of something, you're not going to please everyone. So coming up with something that no money, there is no money in the government. You're right. They just take it. It was just tax time. It's painful. We don't all speak the same language. So we're not all going to feel appreciated the same way. So part of knowing who your stakeholders are, and as a business analysis professional, we are part-time therapists. You might not like that, but you really are. You are in the people business. And as a person that wants to differentiate themselves from an AI generated phrase, which by the way, the requirements we write are the least important part of our work. They're the easiest to do. It's the journey to that requirement and the understanding of the people and what the problems are and all those kinds of things. So knowing this about your stakeholders can make a tremendous difference in how you're able to create relationships and show people that they're appreciated. So if you don't have this book, I would recommend it. It's a quick read, and it is really insightful. Because if I worked with Robert, because I'm a little bit of a stinker, I would bring him a dozen cupcakes tomorrow, just because I would do that. Maybe he'd have a sense of humor about it. Maybe he wouldn't, but I would probably still do it. So workplace appreciation. Yeah, don't tell me you don't like
I
it.
would appreciate the humor at it of it and then put you to work.
I love it. That's great. So then this is an important part of understanding the people and really have that art of working with the people. And I don't remember, Thea, are we going on to Racy Matrix?
Yeah, now we're going to talk about Myers-Briggs.
Excellent. So talk about needs. Excellent.
So current life experiences. You're working with a team, people either on your core team or extended stakeholders, and you notice that one of your team members is getting distracted, seems like they're not engaged anymore, they're not talking quite so much. They may even act angry. You have to assume that something's going on in their lives. Current life experiences happen to all of us. You've got someone that has an addiction in their family. You've got someone that has an illness in their family. You've got someone that's concerned about losing their job. All of these things are critical to the three lowest levels of the Myers-Briggs. You have to have psychological needs met: your air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and reproductive abilities. If you think that you're about to lose your job, suddenly you're down in the pits. You think that your shelter and your food and how am I going to provide health care for my kids and everything. Your safety needs. If someone is in an abusive situation, their safety needs are not being met. And then there's, of course, the love and belonging. They feel lonely. They're down in the bottom. I call it living in the bottoms. These are critical elements. And if you're living in the bottoms, it's very difficult for you to learn, to be creative, to be engaged in things that are not critical to attaining what you need to get out of the bottoms. So I would encourage you, because business analysis is a people business, to give them support, give them patience, give them some grace. We've all been there. We put on a brave face and try to make it through, but we've been there. Give them what they need so that they can make it through, and keep supporting them. You'll have the most loyal team that you've ever seen. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the RACI matrix. 10 years ago, when I wrote the techniques chapter in the BABOK version 3, I wrote about the RACI matrix. Since then, I discovered there's some things that make it better for me. And I think it has made it better for all of the mentees that I've talked to. It makes it where you leave the meeting with everyone having the same idea of what happened in that meeting. And then the things get done that people say that they're going to do. So this is the RACI matrix as I think it should be now. Whenever you're creating your meeting agenda, identify the goal of the meeting and what's the scope of the meeting, what's in scope and out of scope. That way people know why they're coming to this meeting. Make a RACI diagram that shows all the people that are in the meeting. And then I made a example here for you. This is a RACI for a meeting about Thanksgiving dinner. The scope is what is the menu to be, what activities will be provided, and what risks need to be considered. It also shows what is out of scope. These things have already been decided. We don't need to talk about them, but the goal of this meeting is to determine these for the upcoming Thanksgiving meal. So in the RACI, you are actually documenting two things. You're documenting any decisions that are made and who agreed to them. And you're also documenting any tasks. In the task, this is critical. Not only do you say the name of the task, but when and where is it going to be delivered? I've had projects delivered to my email that I was expecting on Teams, or put on my desk that I was expecting by email. It does no good that way. Know exactly where and when the project is going to be delivered. In this example, everything's going to be delivered on the same day, so you don't have to put the day in that field. But if it's multiple days, put the day and the time it's going to be delivered, who it's going to be delivered to, and by what method. Here's the date and time it's going to be delivered and where it's going to be. In our case, it may be in a specific Teams folder. It's going to be sent by email to John, whatever. And if there's next steps or notes, you can drop them over here. In this case, if this is a next step, these bolded ones mean that there's another one here, and I can put these in order. And then, of course, with the RACI, I'm sure you know this, but I'm going to remind you. In the RACI, you identify 4 roles. Who is responsible for getting this thing done? That's everybody working on it. Anybody who's going to be working on it gets an R in their column. Then you get who's accountable. This is the one neck to choke about getting this thing done. This is the person who's responsible over everybody. You can have an A and an R in the same person's column. Then who needs to be consulted before it's done, and who needs to be informed after it's done. So let's talk about that for a minute. Let's say beverages for 30 people. It needs to be delivered to Dixon in the dining hall by noon. Dixon will restock throughout the day. John is going to be accountable and responsible, and Dixon needs to be informed. So Dixon's going to be informed after the fact. But let's say that Parth wants to know, did we get any cranberry juice in? So you're going to put a C under Parth's column and put a hyphen of what he wants to be consulted about. Because if you have something that's complicated, you don't want them to be consulted too late or too early, just only about what you want. Specificity is what makes this valuable. One of the reasons that I really like it is once you get everything on here, you might want to put it in order of progress so that people don't miss something. But then at the end of your meeting, time box 5 minutes to say, let's review what we have and go through them one by one and say, okay, Dixon, you're responsible for providing the table settings and serving utensils. Parth and Andrew, you're going to help. Is there anybody else that needs to be involved? Responsible, consulted, or informed? Go through every single one. You're going to get people
Thea?
that say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thea, Paula's got a question. She asked,
Oh, I'm sorry.
is the
I
RACI
can't see
best?
the chat. So what's the question?
I know you can't. So I'm gonna repeat it. The RACI is best to be completed live during a meeting with the share screen or just sent after the meeting.
Oh
How would
no,
you do
if
the
you can do
RACI?
this on the screen during the meeting so everyone can see what they're saying is being recorded, it's very, very impactful. And let's say you get somebody joining the meeting halfway through, give them a column. That way that they know that they're involved in this. So at the end of your meeting, you go through each one and people are going to say, oh, you know what? I need to be consulted about this one thing. Or, you know what? I don't think I need to be on that one anymore. One of the things that I found is very valuable is putting a hyphen in if they're not involved at all. That way you know that you have gone through it and you did check and you do know that they're not going to be involved. Then after the meeting, let them know this ahead of time at the beginning of the meeting. After the meeting, you will publish this to everyone that was in the meeting as well as anyone else that needs to be informed. What this does is it creates accountability so that you don't have to be the big bad heavy going, hey, you said you're going to do this. Has it gotten done? What's the status? When are we going to receive it? You don't have to do that. Everybody already knows this. They said they were going to do it. Yes, Bob.
Yeah, I just wanted to observe that this doesn't have to have a lifetime of just a short effort or one project. It can be something appropriate to an ongoing process and or departmental operation that lasts more or less forever. So it can be a permanent arrangement, a temporary arrangement. It's good if everybody explicitly knows this, but some of it can be implicit and designed by somebody.
Agreed. So one thing Bob's mentioning is I've seen this RACI be used at a project level. In this project, this person is going to be responsible for this thing or involved in this phase. What I'm talking about here is at a meeting level. And if you want to have an ongoing RACI that keeps track of things on a, not just for one meeting, for all the meetings about this project, we're just going to keep adding to it and be able to mark off when things are accomplished. You can do it that way. I think that's a great idea. Okay, let's talk about building trust amongst the team. Having conversations and creating a private language in your team is a really valuable thing. Cliff noted once that having a Teams channel where people were able to say, hey, I'm having this problem. Do you have a solution? And then other people were able to contribute this to the solution. That had made his group much more productive and excel in ways that he hadn't expected. I think that's great. I think having that type of problem place is important. I also think having something for the people that they just need to chat or blow off steam. I know a group of extroverts that they have a pun of the day. They just chat with each other. They tell each other jokes off to the side whenever they just need to blow off steam or make connections. It's important for extroverts to make connections. There was a show, Ted Laszlo had a show that he talked about be a goldfish. The context was you're having a hard time in this meeting. You've missed a deadline, whatever. And the idea is you send them a little GIF of a goldfish. It's like, I saw what happened. I know that you can just, it'll make your back like a duck's back, like water off a duck's back. Now, the truth is that Goldfish do have a very long memory, not a very short memory, but the idea is the same. You create that own private thing within your team that says, I saw what happened and I'm supporting you. It creates trust. Another thing is Simon says Nick has a group of people that he's very close to, and he has a rule that says you never cry alone. If you need to cry, if you need to vent, if you need to something, you can reach out to somebody that you trust and say, I need this. And the way to say it is, can I have 8 minutes? It's a weird amount of time, but this language means I am reaching out to you and I trust you that you're going to be confidential. You're going to give me some time. And if people reach out to you that way, it's confidential. You never talk about it afterwards. You say things like, that must be hard. Well, how do you feel about that? What can we do to help? You know, what kind of support do you need? Can I take something off your plate? You are their confidant and they trust you. This is going to continue to build trust. But once again, this is confidential. You don't even mention it to anybody else. You know, you don't say, John asked for 8 minutes again. That's not even a possibility. You're building trust in your team. You're giving people a place to vent because you know what? We all have it sometimes. We need to do that. So now you have all of these tools with a little bit of a new twist, things that we have learned over our literally decades of experience that we hope that will be beneficial to you. Heather, you want to take over?
Yes, I thank you so much for all of that, Thea. I think that the differentiation is in business analysis professionals. If you get skills that help you with empathy and communication, you will see a shift in your effectiveness in the world. There's so much misunderstanding out there, and really empathy. Oh my gosh, Thea and I personally have shared lots of things. I have had a lot of really hard things in my life. I'm guessing many of you have too, and quite frankly, everyone's struggling, and so there is no space for blame. There is no space for frustration. It is, you know, another book that we have in our reference is called Crucial Conversations. That is a game changer to be able to have difficult conversations and stick to facts and not bring emotions into it. Really key. So these tools, we've talked about them in little tiny bits and pieces of how you might use them. Bob's offered a couple different suggestions of how you might use a problem statement differently, which is great. One thing that's so awesome about our job and so frustrating is that there is not a single way to do any of this. There are guidelines, there are approaches, there are things that might work, but because of the complexity of the humans involved, we cannot have the exact same approach and the exact same conversation with any of our initiatives, right? So the better you get at understanding people and trying to get communication clarity, people tease me because I'm excessively clear. I am gifted with communication. That's one of my top strengths. Strength Finders is another book I'd recommend you take. Communication is one of mine. So it's very, very hard for me when there is ambiguous stuff going around. So I will strive to get clarity all the time. And that's why I love the problem statement. Let's get that clarity. Knowing who people are and how we're different and how we talk is really important as well. Applying that RACI matrix at all kinds of different levels. Thank you. Yeah, let me add some more animation. And then that concept of trust. That is so important. Some things that I've received as feedback in my career from my colleagues is they'll say, Heather, I can't believe that you asked that question. And secondly, I can't believe somebody answered it. The reason why I am successful in that type of interpersonal communication is because I truly legitimately care about people. I will spend time with someone listening to their life story. I will remember about them. I will ask about them and what they're doing and how things are going. And my interpersonal relationship skills are probably so much more valuable than any technical business analysis skills I ever have. And it allows me the space to create trust where people will share with me what's going on at work, which helps me do better analysis work. And part of that is I am pretty open and honest. And I often say, I'm sorry if I messed up, or all kinds of things. There's so many more things we could say, but take these tools, and because there's no single way to do any of them, make them your own. Try them on your own twist and your own ways. These are really powerful things. And I will tell you, I feel like business analysis is something everyone does, mostly poorly. Even the question, what are we having for dinner, is an exercise in business analysis. And I don't know about the rest of you. It's just me. And I sometimes can't answer that question. Right now, it's a big shift. My kids have moved out, so it's a big shift for me in my life. So you go back to that Maslow's hierarchy and think about people and where they are in their life. As we have shifts and changes, and I love the Myers-Briggs with your friend about how it showed as she has a child, she's going to move a little bit more towards the feeling. I didn't. I had children. I'm still a very hard thinker. But it is important that we know that. So I am appreciative of your time. I'm appreciative, Thea. You guys are doing a great job at your chapter. Thank you for being there and sharing with so many people, and everyone watching the recording. Thank you for investing in yourself. And I hope we all go forward and have the best toolkit we can and just try our hardest. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we have a handout on the Google Drive
Thanks.
that you
for the
have
slide.
access to. One of the things I want you to know about it is I gave you about 4 different links for the Myers-Briggs. One of them is how to take the test yourself or for anyone else. Another one is where you are on the Myers-Briggs compared to someone else and what you need to consider in talking to the person in that other space. I think that's a very valuable thing. Another thing that is on there is from Robert Snyder. You remember Robert was here a few weeks ago. I found something in his work, very many things that I like, but one thing was very particular, and it's a monthly update to give to your team and just say, you don't have to fill it all out. If you fill out 4 or 5 of them, that's great, but it's a health check for your team. And how do we know our team is healthy if we don't have checkups periodically? And so it's not an invasive thing. It's I think it's called I like, I wish, I wonder. And so it's got a couple of categories, and it gives them a place to say, hey, here's something that we might be able to do better, or here's something that's really bugging me. But you don't have that option if you don't give that health checkup periodically. So that's in the handout too. Yes, Heather.
Yeah, I'm giggling because somebody had said that they wanted a team building activity for their employee appreciation, which I'm going to guess that there's a significant number of human beings that would dread that. They would be like, I don't want to talk about how I feel. I don't want to talk about how I'm doing. And heaven forbid you bring a cupcake too. Boy, that would be just really suck. But there are ways to do it where you can crack people's hard exterior shells and make it more fun. But yeah, it's important. We didn't leave any time for questions. I don't know if anybody has questions.
We really didn't. Okay, if y'all have questions, reach out to Heather or myself on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Those of you who had difficulties joining us, I don't know what the technical difficulty was. It was Meetup or Teams or Zoom or whatever, but that code is a brand new thing to us. So we're going to try to do some strategy about what we can do better next time. We don't know why the code came up. Thank you for you that were able to join by reaching out to one of us and getting the code. We're hopefully going to get it better next time, but we didn't exclude you intentionally at all. We are so appreciative that you joined us. We look forward to next week. We're going to get started on our practice test questions. No, I'm sorry. Next week, we're going to do orientation, the introduction, and the first chapters of the BABOK before we start our practice test questions. If you've been through our practice test questions before, it's going to be very similar, but it's going to be accelerated, because what we're going to do is ask you to participate by also going to our recordings ahead of time and gearing up, ramping up for that chapter before we actually have that chapter's meeting. We are looking at, all of us, if you haven't yet, taking your certification in November. That gives you months to practice, but we are going to get you ready for it. And we're going to do it all together. I started teaching the Ireland chapter study group today. They're going to join in November. They're going to take their tests in November. I'm going to start teaching the Philippines chapter in just 2 weeks. They're going to take their tests in November. We're all going to do it together. So I look forward to seeing you here next week. We're going to do this. If you haven't read the BABOK lately, go ahead and read the intro in chapter 1 and chapter 2. It's important, and I'll talk about why next week, but it's not a bad idea to get started now. Okay, guys, see you here next week. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Wow.
Bye.
Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye bye.